Understand something. Plain and simple. To me, Abigail was a delicious poison. An intoxicating, overwhelming poison. Yowie wowie!
What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Abby's Window, and man, do we have a lot to talk about this week. So let's bring us on screen. We've got Dom. Dom, how are you?
Yeah, good. It's good to be back. I still feel jet lagged. I still feel tired, but I'm here. I'm wide awake for you guys. It's good to be here. Hopefully everyone's all right in the chat.
Awesome. Glad to have you back, Dom. And as always, we have to have Abby here. So we are joined by Jodie. Jodie, how are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. A little bit of my 4-year-old's a little bit under the weather at the moment, but he's currently cuddling with Daddy. So,
well, we wish him well and hope he gets better soon. Starts to feel better. Yeah, it always sucks seeing your kids sick. It's a tough place as a parent. So, yeah, hope the little guy feels better soon. Welcome everyone. We have a lot of people here, eager to discuss all things Bray Wyatt and what's going on in this story. So yeah, we want to hear theories. We want to hear your thoughts. We want you guys to participate. So chat along with us as we go throughout the evening. So what do you say, Jodie? You want to get started with a little bit of Caleb's Corner?
yeah, always. You know.
What a sexy man.
Oh. Right? Yeah. Anyway, so he just came back off a Kiss cruise, posted some absolutely stunningly gorgeous pictures. And he's about to, I think they're rehearsing now for the TSO show. That tour starts on November the 16th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So it's funny because the first time I ever heard Caleb sing was with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and it was this one particular song, and I told him about it the first time I met him, and it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And now that I hear anybody else sing that same song now, it's not the same. Like, anyway, so he's going out on tour with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. If he's anywhere near you guys, make sure that you go. He's a very, very talented singer. That's it.
That's all, folks.
That's all it needs to be. An attractive, bearded, long-haired man and some tour dates, and we're all good, man. This is good.
Yeah.
Jodie's blushing. All right. Well,
I love it.
Moving from one bearded man to another, we got Bray on SmackDown Friday night. Before we get into the stuff that we got at Crown Jewel, but we saw Bray backstage last Friday night, and he was pacing back and forth, and he starts talking about how he hates being interrupted, and
he hates himself.
Yeah, he hates himself. He has a problem. He's not the type that shares his feelings, and this poor soul back here, this worker working backstage.
He was just delivering a package.
Yeah, he was just delivering a package, and this poor soul.
He did his job really well. He just sold. I mean, well, he didn't sell. Yeah, he was just there. He was just stood there. He was, he was doing his thing. props to the extra guy for taking Bray's tirade.
Yeah, because man, did he take it? I mean, Bray just lit into him, and I mean, he felt the wrath of Bray. So I've got to ask both of you. I'll start with you, Dom, and then we'll go to Jodie. What did you make of his demeanor backstage, and what
Yeah.
did you make of these intense moments, that intense interaction that he had with that worker?
Yeah, very interesting. Interesting. I mean, I haven't been more excited for the character direction since he came back until this promo. I'm gonna play. I know that Jodie mentioned I've been playing a bit of devil's advocate on this podcast. But I feel like that might be my role. I'm slightly less enthused about what happened on Crown Jewel, because this promo on Friday, it felt like some exposition. It felt like we were getting the insight into the real Bray and this kind of raw, honest Bray Wyatt that I think we've all talked about wanting to see more of on this podcast. He's saying how difficult it was for him to share his feelings. That's what I want. That's what I want, is that raw and honest Bray Wyatt, and that is what we got. If you look at most of the wrestling media loved this promo. A lot of people loved it, and I just think, and I know when we're not here to sell to the masses. I know Jodie and you've talked before. I know Bray's not interested in that, and that's definitely a thing. But this was great character exposition, and for me, if they'd have left that and then not had anything at Crown Jewel, I would have been fine. Crown Jewel was good. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this promo, man, one of the best ones he's ever done, I would say. Actually, one of the best promos he's ever done. That poor extra guy, as you guys have said in the comments, I feel for that dude, man. I do. But it was well delivered. The emotion was there. There was a balance between like a little bit crazy and him trying to manage his emotions. It was great. I've got nothing but good things to say about this promo. Again, a little bit less enthused about Crown Jewel, but we'll get on to that.
Okay. Jodie,
oh man, there were just so many tiny little moments that the more you go back and watch it again, you start to pick them out, because Bray's really good at that. But yeah, I like this version of him. I really do. And I don't know if that's because, like, knowing him personally, or I don't really know. It's a side of him that, I don't think we've really seen a whole lot of, is this angry, really visually battling with himself in the same shot. And he tells so much of his story with his facial expressions and the little things that he says, as opposed to the overall speech. But I thought it was an amazing promo. And there was one particular moment that it kind of looked like he was starting to peel off a mask.
That was clever. Yeah, that was really clever. The unclipping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, did he forget and maybe thought he had a mask on? Or is Bray Wyatt a mask?
Or he was trying not to let the mask slip. That was somebody else said that, like, because there was a lot of in the Howdy promos. It's a lot about letting the mask slip off and actually letting people see the real him. I think from what I can understand, Howdy is an advocate for the Fiend and the Fiend returning. That's how I see this. A couple of people in the comments are saying, they see this as the return of the Fiend, or insinuating the term of the Fiend. That's not what I want to see right now. But that detail that you brought up there, Jodie, it was essential, and I would have forgotten about it had you not brought it up. The simple action of that, I think it was something like that.
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, so he's not letting the mask slip. He's trying to keep, it
was intentional.
Yeah, it was. 100%. Everything's intentional with Bray. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great promo. I like seeing this side of him a lot.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, this is this was intense. I really love the feel of this. And Jodie, you brought this up last week, and we'll talk about this when we get into Crown Jewel in a couple minutes. But um, I think it's very interesting that you bring up his demeanor backstage and then his demeanor in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
They're polar opposites.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on Friday, especially with the detail, like I mean, you look at his mannerisms, you look at everything, because everything means something.
Mm-hmm.
Everything with him means something. The slightest movements, the way he, says a word. I mean, everything means something. So
Mm-hmm.
I just think that him letting out that anger, but then pulling back and being like, okay, all right, just get out of here. Just go. It's like
Mm-hmm.
he knows the bad things are coming,
Yeah.
and he's trying his best not to unleash it at that moment, but
Not to
it's
let him in.
right.
Yeah, yeah. It's a really interesting dynamic, isn't it? Again, this that we're fighting, or he's fighting against the Fiend, but then, you know,
He is the Fiend.
exactly, he is the Fiend, and yeah,
It's like a
fascinating.
movie.
It
It
really
is.
is. It's like
Because
a
you're
movie.
just sitting here going, "Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next?"
Well, let's the next night he's at Crown Jewel. And what a cool scene
Oh yeah,
that was. I mean, just seeing him there, seeing everyone kind of, keep saying welcome back, and he
You
introduced
know he
himself.
loved
He loved it. He's soaking it in right there. Um, and they're telling him welcome back, and he opens up the promo by saying, "My name is Bray Wyatt."
that. Mm-hmm.
Now, I before we get into the rest of it, what do you, let's break this thing down, bit by bit. What did you make of him, or do you make anything of him coming out and saying, "My name is Bray Wyatt"? Do you think there's significance there to him stating, "This is who I am. This is my name"?
Yes. There's always significance, like you said, to everything he does. But I think the first time he said it, it was to the fans,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what he used to say. My name is Bray Wyatt. But the ones at the end where he kept saying it over and over and over again, I think he was talking to himself.
trying to reassure himself. I think it's a lot about him almost trying to
Revel
force
in who
himself.
you are.
Yeah, he's trying to force himself to kind of either remember that that's who he is, because I think there's a lot of push from Howdy, from whatever, forced to be the Fiend, and it's like he's trying to rewrite rewrite the end of his story. That was a good moment, because it's almost like he didn't want to be the Fiend. He never wanted to be the Fiend. He kind of wished the Fiend didn't happen, and he was rewriting the end of his story, and he's starting to do that now. And that's what I found that's what I thought is a really interesting talking point, because he is Bray Wyatt. And it's like he's got to, like he's forcing himself to think of himself in that way, because it's too easy to put the mask back on. It's too easy. You get addicted to the mask. It's like, I mean, all the things you get addicted to. I mean, let's do a small one. Caffeine. Let's just do caffeine. I mean, there's obviously much more intense, extreme addictions. But if you try and quit, it always pulls you back in. And because it's addictive, right? And I guess that's the same thing that they're trying to say with the mask. The Fiend's mask is addictive. The power, the freedom that it gives, and he's trying to push himself away from it. I am Bray Wyatt. I'm not the Fiend. But and that's the story, I guess. The pull of the Fiend. We're gonna see loads of people wearing Fiend masks again. People, merch being sold, Fiend masks being sold. And the more that is there, is that the temptation of the Fiend mask? I do think there's something in that. You know what I mean? The temptation of the Fiend and the resistance against that.
I mean, he said, he gave in so much that he made a monster of himself, and he wore that mask with pride. And it didn't take him long to understand while he was wearing that mask, he no longer felt pain. He no longer could be afraid. He then says in the mask, he was completely untouchable. And that type of thing feels good. Some might say sensations like that are just about impossible to quit. So, I mean, that
Absolutely.
speaks to exactly what you just said
Yeah.
about that. And he said he found himself in a kingdom of nothingness, sitting on an island by himself. And this monster he had made himself into, he destroyed him. The monster destroyed Bray, and he ran off everyone he'd ever loved. So there he sat alone, no one to love him, nowhere to run, alone.
Yeah, I mean it's heavy, isn't it? I mean, Jodie, like it's interesting because I mean I'll do the devil's advocate thing in a minute. I'll try and I mean because I'm a big fan of. The more I go back over it, the more the more I love it. You know what I mean? I'm going to try and be devil's advocate a little bit. But what are your thoughts on some of that stuff that you said there?
Do you realize everything that you just read, Jeff? How many biblical references there are?
Yes.
I mean, it's your classic good versus evil story. He wants to be himself. He wants to be the good person that he knows he is. And you continually get away and drawn away by evil. And, think about when Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and got tempted by Satan 3 times in a row. And maybe we'll see an elevation to the story like that, like first he said, he starts small. If you're thirsty, turn the rock into bread. And then you get a little bigger and a little bit more, throw yourself off the rock and let God save you. And then he finally gets to the point, follow me and I'll give you everything that you want.
Yeah.
It's that classic good versus evil story.
Wasn't there the Instagram post a few months ago now, and he was talking about what wrestling means to him, and there was a couple of references to good and evil, bad versus good, etc. in that. So I think that there is and wrestling is effectively, isn't it? It's a good guy and a bad guy. Not so much these days, but certainly when it started out, it was a heel and a face. And so so maybe that's what this is to Bray. It's exploring the pure good versus evil, but in a way that has never been done in wrestling before on sports entertainment television, because he's going to be fighting himself effectively,
Yeah.
And I remember, he's told me on more than one occasion that he's told all of us this, he has a message.
But then this is it. This is my devil's advocate, and this is the one time I'll do it, because I know that this podcast is for fans, and I am, as you know, I am a huge fan. My issue is that my one issue with the Crown Jewel thing was that it doesn't extend. I like, to me, that promo on Friday was more exciting, more interesting, and more expositional in terms of the future character of Bray Wyatt, or rather creating intrigue for the future of Bray Wyatt than what happened at Crown Jewel. You know what I mean? And it's more, my issue is more with the Howdy character interrupting him, which I guess comes back to the SmackDown promo. If that promo had been just Bray talking about his feelings and talking about how difficult he was finding things, I probably would have been more invested in that. But then Howdy comes in, and then as much as I love the visuals, it looks fantastic, but it does feel like this story isn't progressing because Howdy keeps interrupting Bray, and I guess that's the point. Maybe that's the whole point. But if Howdy wasn't interrupting him, we would have more progression to this story. That's my issue. Was if it was 10 minutes or 5 minutes even of Bray, they flew him all the way out to Saudi Arabia, right? If there was 5 minutes of Bray pouring his soul out, saying, "Thank you guys, Maybe a little bit of inner turmoil, because we know he can do it. He can act it out himself as if he's talking for two people. We know he can do that.
Mhm.
I would have preferred that than Howdy interrupting him, because we've seen that now. Friday was something we'd not seen before, in my opinion.
And I think each of these, like 3 so far, we've seen 3. So we've seen in-ring Bray, we've seen backstage Bray, and we've seen Howdy. So I think each one of these entities, if that's how you want to phrase that, each one of them is going to get more intense.
Yeah.
In their own way. Howdy's going to keep poking and prodding at Bray, trying to get him to snap, trying to get him to bring the Fiend back, or, put the mask back on. And I think backstage Bray's going to get more angry.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he even made it a point to say on Friday how he hates being interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, just based off of everything that we've seen, we can expect more interruptions when he's trying, and it always comes when he's trying to tell his side. He's trying to connect in ways. It always comes at those moments. There's the interruption of, why are you trying to be something that you're not? Why don't you just let them see who you really are? Reveling,
kind of like what Ramblin' Rabbit used to do in the Funhouse.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess Howdy's saying that the Fiend is who he really is, and Bray looks at the Fiend like you would look at an addiction, like an alcohol addiction, just for the sake of an example, and he's like, "That's not who I want to be anymore." And maybe that's where the story is fascinating, because that a lot of people can relate to that. He
really is like wrestling with himself.
Yeah, a lot of people can relate to that, and I understand that, like I say, Bray isn't concerned about necessarily, again, the wider community or the wider wrestling fandom, but if the character can connect to the majority, then it will do more than just sell merchandise. It will create job opportunities for other people, like your Bo Dallas and your, who's rumored to be Uncle Howdy. There's if it connects to a wider audience and a wider, people who have struggled with these things, then there's longevity and potential, long-term career opportunities for, for years to come, with angles with Bo, with Alexa, is another name that obviously people are bringing up after Crown Jewel. So,
yeah.
But I thought that Friday SmackDown promo connected exactly how it needed to. But like I say, I can't mess too much with Crown Jewel, because there was a lovely moment, although people are debating whether it was in character or not, after the it was like fan footage, wasn't it, of him going out into the crowd and stuff like that.
That was, I'm sure awesome. He loved that.
Yeah, but that could be in character, couldn't it? That could all be part of the character. It could be. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. He's that clever. He
is, but he cares so much about the fans. He just wants to be himself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Crown Jewel was for the fans, especially the fans over there. I mean, they paid how much money to get WWE to come over there? So,
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They're going to have their biggest pop on the show in some way. So
now I've got to ask this to both of you, and I'll start with Jodie this time. Uncle Howdy, like you guys were talking about, came in, and if it's okay, I want to read a little bit of what was said.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, he says, "Why wear a mask? It must hurt forcing yourself to be someone you're not." He said, "You can't fool Howdy. You fooled them, but you can't fool Howdy. Does it hurt? Who knows you better than I do? You think they will still love you if they knew the truth? They don't deserve you," Howdy says. "The truth is you're going to go too far and you're going to give in. So why wait? And when you do, remember how good it feels, and it's going to feel so, so good. Do it. And if you're worried about the aftermath, hurt them. It plays in the background. Just don't take the mask off. Tell me I'm wrong, Howdy says.
Yeah.
That's deep.
That's deep. But I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to ask your opinions before you start to break some of that down. What did you make of us actually seeing Bray watch Howdy speak?
I think it's a progression. Like this is going to be a really slow burn. that just being able to watch Howdy on screen is a progression because it was the first time that we had. And I don't know. I think those facial expressions are going to start to change too.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Because I guess if this was the pandemic era, we probably wouldn't have seen that. We'd have seen, the Uncle Howdy stuff, and that would have been, we're supposed to think that it's in his mind. Mm-hmm. And I guess we can still think it's in his mind. Is Uncle Howdy talking to Bray from inside his head, or is this like, is it a physical person, from the bowels of somewhere, from the boiler room or something,
Right.
And this is, I guess, the interesting thing. If it's for the mind, if it's from his mind, that's really cool. But like people are saying, that's Bo Dallas behind the mask. So is Uncle Howdy ever going to show up as a character? I mean, it's so hard because part of me doesn't want him to show up because I'm worried they get it wrong. Like, how can he wrestle in that mask if it's a person? If it's Bo, how's he going to wrestle in that mask? In the Uncle Howdy mask, you know what I mean? So part of me wants it to remain in his mind, remain on the Titantron, and never ever see the light of day as a character, and we just see him pop up, through Bray's feuds for the next, I don't know, year or something, tormenting him. But people are clamoring for a Bo Dallas return with an, and they're clamoring for other people. Vincent was another one that was rumored to be under the mask. So you're right. It's fantastic to see Bray talking to Howdy, but what that does to me is go, well, that's two things. That's either a guy who they're building into him to feud with, who's talking on the Titantron like Stone Cold would do to the Undertaker, or back in the day, or I mean, there's countless examples, isn't there? Mick Foley used to come from the boiler room. He used to see his promos to Triple H from the Titantron. You know what I mean? So like, it's just like, how are they going to do it? And I guess that's my question back to you guys: is this a physical human being that Bray is watching talk to him from the from an undisclosed location, from parts unknown, or is it his mind? And this is what we are supposed to believe, that Uncle Howdy is a figment and will remain so. You know what I mean?
I think that, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I don't think we're ever going to see Howdy come out and wrestle.
Good. That's what I want. I don't want. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, good.
Just a knee-jerk reaction, gut feeling, because I don't want to say it's necessarily in his mind, but I compare him to a puppet. The Funhouse puppets, except for his big return, didn't really manifest into a whole person. So if you look at Uncle Howdy as kind of the puppet master, maybe we just get the Fiend and Bray that are going up against people that are actually physically wrestling. He goes out as the Fiend, similar to what he did with the Funhouse. He goes out as the Fiend when he decides to put that mask on, when he snaps, when he can't take it anymore. But then the other times see him wrestle as Bray Wyatt. But Uncle Howdy and Uncle Harper are going to be the two pulling the strings of either one.
Okay.
Now, I think that's interesting, and I wanted to bring this up because the conversation we haven't had a chance to bring up a lot of comments, but I wanted to bring this one up. Erase Your Mind saying idea. Uncle Howdy equals hurt glove. Uncle Harper equals heel glove in character form. What do
Mhm.
you two think about that point?
Yeah, interesting. Jodie, you go first on this one.
I mean, yeah, we're basically, we kind of said that in the very, very beginning. What if we see the funhouse come to life? Literally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely possible. And it kind of adds to that theory too about, Uncle Howdy being the one that's controlling the Fiend. And then you're going to have Uncle Harper being the one that's controlling Bray.
Yeah, interesting. It is.
Wrestle as those characters, they have Bray and the Fiend do it for them.
It's a cool idea. Yeah, and again, it's like a different slant on the three faces of Foley type thing, which I know they were talking about, and I'd like to see because it's not been done since Mick, and I know Mick and Wyatt have discussed multiple things over the years, but I think it goes back to that point Racing Man just made. Goes back to what we were talking about. If you're going to have these. The problem is if you're going to have physical representations of these characters, I don't think it has a long shelf life. Do you know what I mean? I think Bray does, Bray wrestling as the Fiend, Bray wrestling as, multiple personalities. But I think if you put Uncle Howdy out there, Bo Dallas in a mask,
I don't think they will.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I think the best thing that could possibly happen, which is pretty much only catering to us as fans, because I'm pretty sure everybody else would be like, what is this? If it was still going on in a year. I think in a year's time, if we're still getting Uncle Howdy, interruptions, telling Bray that he's not good enough and whatever, that's interesting. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, he's still there. He's still pulling the strings. But the worst thing WWE could do, I think, is bring physical representations of any of these characters out, because then it's going to go the way of the Fiend, where eventually it might be handled really well first off, but eventually someone's going to make a misstep on the writing team and it's going to just look cartoonish, so I think the best thing they can do is have Uncle Harper and Uncle Howdy be figments that just come up on the Titantron, to further the story. That's what I think.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel like maybe they won't, that they'll just be the puppet masters.
Yeah, I hope so.
Which is an interesting idea because it really is the representation of good versus evil.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, it's
I think
like
Wyndham even has that tattooed on his stomach. I think he has an angel on one side and a devil on the other side.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really playing into that. Who's over which shoulder and which one are you listening more to? Which is an interesting concept for a story. Jesse Callen saying Rob Fee and Bray have their own writing team. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Let's see. King Chris saying it all represents Bray battling with the demons inside of him. Yeah, I mean, it's so I guess let me ask this question from Hanzo. What if Bray is the bad and the Fiend is the good?
Ooh, now that's interesting.
That'd be a nice Saw-like twist.
It would. That again, like a movie twist, Jodie. Yeah, that'd be interesting. The issue is, I guess they built the Fiend. I mean, it's a very cool idea, but I guess they built the Fiend to be, to be this unstoppable monster. And how do you turn that?
Turns out to be like, the bad guys that you want to root for?
Well, yeah, the anti-heroes. This is what we're talking about. We're talking the number one baby face on SmackDown is Bray Wyatt, right? But Bray Wyatt right now is acting more like an anti-hero and a heel. So interesting. It's interesting that, a good indicator of, I guess, the world we live in now. We're more interested in those characters that have duality than we are in, what is it, what's the phrase, the white meat baby faces or whatever, the sort of this the just over the top baby faces. It just isn't it isn't done anymore. The last time I think they tried that with Bobby Lashley, and it was horrible. They had his sisters out there or something,
Yeah.
So I just think, I think Bray Wyatt is indicative of the modern wrestling fan. We like darker character. Well, you see, I mean, Seth Rollins is an example that has, he's a great example. Edge is another one. The characters with a slightly darker edge, but the problem is what they did to him before, and that was further up in the comments. That all this could be, Bray trying to forget what they did to him before. There's a tendency in wrestling to overdo it, and this is the problem. There's a risk here that it could all be overdone and over the top. It has to be stripped back and raw. Strip back and raw, and I think that's what we're getting.
People in place to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all of this, and I think going back to the comments about the face or heel, I think with someone like Bray, you blur those lines completely, and is perfectly fine.
Yep.
He can be both, which is great. And I think this, especially if we're going to get like a good versus evil, I mean, how cool is that going to be as a fan? Like, who do you root for? When do you root for this person? Do you boo against that person? It's gonna be great to see it play out.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, he's doing a good job with it so far, and we'll all be by his side no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. There's a couple of really interesting comments that I've seen. You're right. There are some examples of proper baby faces. Mm-hmm. John Cena is your example, and sorry, the majority, but your John Cena, your Rey Mysterio, the old school baby faces that still exist in modern day, purely based, I think, on their legend and who they have been for the last 20 years. Again, very rare. But great examples, and thank you, Kaylin and others for bringing those to my attention. Because you're right, they do exist, but Bray Wyatt certainly isn't John Cena. You know what I mean? So I think that's we wouldn't want him to be, would we?
Nope, I want him to be Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
So
that
is a great shot. Like I really love this shot. This is a really cool one. So I want to open this up. I want to do something a little bit different, and I want to get the participation of the chat to do this too.
Cool.
Let's say you're booking this out. You have the pen, you have the pencil, you have Bray Wyatt by your side, and you're telling this story. What's next? And where do you go from here? And I'll start with Dom on this one.
God damn it, man. You gotta the pressure. And I was like, please say Jodie, so I can have some time to think on this one. To be fair, as always with this podcast and always with the chat, and I really love everybody's engagement. Stuff comes to me while we're talking. So actually, you've kind of saved it for me, and I'm reevaluating Crown Jewel now and reevaluating Friday and the previous weeks, because I'd gone into this thinking with this sort of cynicism, thinking, oh my God, they're going to have a character portray Uncle Howdy, because they had was it the same earring, that Bo Dallas was wearing or whatever, and they definitely wanted us to see that. So I was like, oh my God, they're having Bo Dallas come out in a Uncle Howdy mask. Oh my God, what are they going to do? This is going to be a disaster. But actually, what you've made me realize, not that I think a lot of people will dig this, but I think we will. they don't have to be physical characters. None of them do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we never have to see a physical representation of Uncle Howdy. We can just see a Titantron of him in his mind. You know, and that's what I would want for the next 6 months. You know, I want him to have feuds. But I want, you know, Uncle Howdy to start popping up more sparingly. If that's the direction they're going in, you know, he pops up once or twice to you know, when he's in the middle of a feud with, let's just say, Roman, for, you know, for example's sake. I want, again, not something I want right now, but imagine Uncle Howdy pops up after like 2 or 3 months. Oh, hey, I'm still here, you know, and you know, and it kind of causes a conflict, you know, a confidence issue within Bray, which gives the storyline a bit more dynamic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, again, that's what I want, but I also don't want Uncle Howdy every week. I don't, if that's what they're going for, I don't want it every week. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
used sparingly, special, you know what I mean? To tease out maybe, oh, the Fiend needs to come out to face, you know, you can't beat Roman without the Fiend. I'm here to remind you who you are. You know what I mean? So that's what I want. I want Howdy to be this nagging devil on his shoulder for the rest of his time in WWE as he goes through feuds. You know what I mean? So like, he only comes out every so often, but in terms of on the Titantron, I'm talking about with Howdy, the issue is that how, you know, they've got this Uncle Harper character trademarked as well. I have a feeling that they want to do these guys as physical characters. I have a feeling they want to do it. You know, I'm talking about WWE. But for me, Uncle Howdy is you know, in an ideal world, I'm having him be a presence in the rest of Bray's career over the next year, 2, 3 years, but just sparingly. Every so often, he comes out to give him a crisis of confidence. And maybe the same with Harper. Maybe this Uncle Harper's like the angel on his shoulder, you know? But again, if you're going to do this stuff, because it's going to be met with, you know, the wider wrestling community is going to be like, oh, it's all hocus pocus bull. You know, you have to do it sparingly, I think. But that's how I would do it. And I came in with a, you know, you've kind of saved it for me, because if they do that, I'll love it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I came into here going like, oh my God, they're going to make them characters. Oh my God, they're going to have Bo Dallas in a bodysuit with an Uncle Howdy mask and his earring dangling, and he's going to fight Bray Wyatt. And then I'm getting so worked up, I'm choking myself. You know, that's what I think the WWE machine wants to do. But for me, and I'm going to finish now, I'm sorry for waffling. I want a kind of a psychological, every so often, like a cactus, you know, like a not physical Cactus Jack. You know what I mean? He pops up every so often to torment, and maybe Uncle Harper pops up every so often to give him a little bit of a you know, support. Yeah, pep talk, and that's how I would do it if I was in control. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jodie, same question, and then I have some rapid fire questions for you guys.
Cool.
I don't think they're gonna have him be actual characters. I think they're gonna be figments of his imagination. Like I said, I think they're gonna be the puppet masters pulling the strings. So the Fiend and Bray will be the ones that fight, maybe. But I think this is gonna keep building, and like I said, each of the 3 characters that we've seen thus far are just gonna get a little bit more intense. And it's kind of going in a circle. So we'll start with Bray in the ring. The next time we'll get Bray backstage, and then the next time we get Uncle Howdy, and then it just, you know. And somebody mentioned it in the chat too about backstage. Bray said, "I go where the circle takes me." So, you know, this is all just going to keep going back around.
Yep. Around the circle we go. Some rapid fire questions for you. First one. is Alexa going to be involved in this in any way?
Who's first?
Yes, but not in the way you want her to be.
Okay.
What do you mean? How do we want her to be involved? I mean, that's a good question.
People want them to get back together. I
Yeah.
don't think that's going to happen. I think he's
No.
actually going to go after her.
Yeah, I think I would say she's definitely getting involved in some way. I think maybe on a psychological level, or maybe he goes after her, and then that starts a feud. You know, who comes to Alexa's aid? But then is that very face? Because Alexa's a face. You know, is that very good? You know, so and she's supposed to be the most popular character on SmackDown. Sorry, I mean I've kind of hijacked your answer there, but like. I think they'll get him involved because obviously Alexa was very popular. You know, sell some more Lily dolls. You know, but yeah, I think there'll be Alexa will be involved just for a short period of time. That's what I hope. Maybe to spark his first or second feud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hanzo saying, or Uncle Howdy uses her to resurrect the Fiend as he knows she has a connection with him.
Mm-hmm.
Good point there. Next question. We'll start with Dom this time. Will we see Bray Wyatt or Uncle Howdy tonight? I saw someone ask that in the chat.
On Raw.
On Raw.
No, but we'll see. We'll see a bit of a recap of Crown Jewel, won't we? We'll see that maybe a video package of Crown Jewel. Unfortunately for Dan Hargreaves over at Give Me a Hug, I drew the good straw and I got to do SmackDown. He has to watch Raw and cover Raw for us. And he, but he's quite a fan of Bray at the moment. And he was saying that it's never what are you seeing for the last 2 or 3 weeks on Raw. Bray doesn't show up. They just have, because they know how popular he is, they have him his previous week. They have it recapped in like a small package, to use a wrestling term. They put a small package together with his Crown Jewel stuff, and I think we'll see some Crown Jewel footage of him, but that's about it.
Okay. Jody?
No, I don't think he's on there either. I think they may mention him being on SmackDown on Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think we see him tonight.
Don't think we see him tonight. Okay, I got to ask this because I didn't ask earlier. Start with Jody this time. Significance of him starting his promo out on Saturday at Crown Jewel discussing his family lineage.
That's a great question.
Well, I mean, he does have a hell of a family lineage. I don't blame him for not bringing it up. But considering the familiar representation of Uncle Howdy, I would say absolutely it was intentional. That his family, his personal wrestling family might come into play down the road. Maybe that's it's a thorn for him. Something that Uncle Howdy can use to jab him in the side. Not necessarily, not like a sore spot or anything like that, but that's something that he really values. So maybe, Howdy tries to use that against him.
Yeah, there was some interesting stuff there about how he wanted to be the best. He wanted to be the best one, and then the crowd gave him the yes you are. He wanted to be better than the rest of his family, and that was particularly interesting because that's a crisis of confidence thing. That's a mental health thing. That's him struggling with imposter syndrome. Kind of not living up to the family lineage. So I think it's more about furthering the mental health story than I think it. I mean, obviously, Uncle Howdy looks like Barry Windham.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I think it will be referenced. I don't think they'll start. I mean, I think they'll bring Bo back, but my hope is that it's again certainly not under an Uncle Howdy mask. Please no. maybe they bring Bo into the storyline somehow, but I don't think we're going to see Barrett. I don't think we're going to see other. Sorry, I don't think we're going to see any other members of the family, of his original family, come into it, because I think it's more about him telling his story of his crisis of confidence, his imposter syndrome, the struggles he's had, which we can all relate to, I'm sure. Again, I think it's a way for him to relate to other people. We've all felt maybe at one time or another that we're not good enough, that we are subpar compared to other members of our family, something like that. And so I think it's more about relating to people, and for the sake of a good promo, a great promo even. But maybe we'll see some references to it. I think it'll be referenced. I don't think it'll be a central part of the story, the family thing.
Yeah. A lot of people talking about that in the chat. King Chris says, talking to your point earlier about the physical representations. King Chris says, I think Vince would have wanted to do the physical characters in the ring. I think now that Triple H and Bray have the control, they're going to do with the psychological way, which is the correct way.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. That'd be cool. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah.
All right. With the last question that I asked you about, just about the family piece. I know Big Dan brought this up. Do you think bringing up that lineage could lead to any possible hints at a feud with either Cody Rhodes, who has a strong family lineage, or the Bloodline, which obviously is represented by Roman Reigns as the champion at the moment? So do you think that line has anything to do with the future direction?
I think it definitely could. Bray's really good at piecing things back together.
Yeah. I mean, it could be. Sorry, what was that, Jodie?
Both of them. I'd like to see Cody in that. I'd like to see Roman in that.
I'd like to see. I know I mentioned that Bo. I don't want to see Bo in a Howdy mask. I wouldn't be against seeing Bo wrestle Bray and have a feud. Maybe something to do with this. The issue with him going into a feud with, say, Cody and or Roman right now.
Oh no, not right now, but
soon is that you what certainly, well, more with Roman than Cody, because obviously Cody's injured. You got to give you can't have him beat Roman, although I think he's been talked about to do that, but I don't think anybody wants him to beat Roman right now and win the title. So, and Cody Cody's the same, because Cody's right. He's going to be riding so much momentum down the line, maybe next year, maybe mid next year, end of next year, once Cody's taken a loss or two or three and somebody else has beaten Roman, then yeah, absolutely. But certainly in the next sort of 6 months, I can't see anybody taking that title from Roman, and I can't see anybody beating Cody. Like, do you know what I mean? And if you put Cody in a ring with Bray when he first comes back, Cody's taking the win. And if you put Bray in a ring with Roman right now and for the next 3 to 6 months, Roman is taking the win. So it has to be at the end of mid to end of 2023 if they're going to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Plus, I think there's enough story here to tell and other things to do in the meantime that you don't need to get to that point just yet. I think there's enough that they can do between now and then, because like you said, you've got, and Moda says is, what if you get lineage versus lineage versus lineage in a triple threat match, Roman versus Cody versus Bray?
Oh my.
You're talking about family history and everything.
Shut up and take my money.
So long as it's the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024.
Time, but
yeah. If you do that now or in the next 6 months, Bray isn't winning anything. So yeah, give it some time.
Yeah, Tim Johnson saying Bray can't tell a story while being in a title run.
I agree.
Yeah. I think yeah, I don't think we need to get anywhere near a title at the moment. Just let this story play out. Let's get to the bottom of all of this stuff and figure out what's going on. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
wow, this hour went by kind of fast. It always does. um, I I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat for all of your awesome comments throughout the evening. Um, but final thoughts. I want to start with Dom, and then we'll go to Jody to wrap us up here.
Right. Ask me that again because I was looking at comments.
Okay,
Yeah, I was focused again. Sorry, man. I was just focusing on what a couple of other people
that's
had said about Wyndham not needing the championship. So ask me that again.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, so just final thoughts on where we are and um, what you're excited about going forward and in the story.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, man. Like I say, I think that's been captivating my imagination for the last few minutes. Is the idea of whether Wyndham needs a championship, whether Bray needs a championship. That's what I was just thinking about. I think we keep Bray as far away from the title for the next year to 2 years to ever. You know, Jake Roberts didn't need a title. I think that's far in the future. I think. Right now, I think get him in a feud. Like, let's set it up in the next few weeks. Like, because we're all fickle, we all have short attention spans due to the world we live in these days. You know, people are already I think we're all on the Bray Wyatt Facebook group, right? It's funny watching people clamor for a return, and then all of a sudden they're starting to complain because they're not getting enough. The Uncle Howdy promos are too much, and he's not in a feud yet. People are already complaining about that. You know, it's sad that that's the way it is, but it is the way it is. People are already kind of complaining that we've seen too much Uncle Howdy and not enough Bray in the ring, or not enough Bray in a feud. So I think, you know, in the next 2 or 3 to 4 weeks, if it was me booking it, I wouldn't have him wrestle to the Royal Rumble. But I think WWE know that he's going to lose. I think that, you know, steam might run out, so I guess you have him at the Survivor Series. I don't know. That's what I think they will do. I think if we, you know, as fans were booking it, we'd have him wrestle maybe Royal Rumble and have more of these segments. You know, as excited as we are to have him in the ring and to have him back wrestling, I think you draw the, you know, in an ideal world, you draw this story out. You have a bit of Howdy, you maybe have Uncle Harper appear, you know, you have the good versus evil, the devil and the angel stuff, right? And you maybe bring other characters into it, maybe some of some of stuff with Alexa Bliss. But
Mhm.
but I think WWE, because of the nature of the beast and the machine, and they've got to sell merchandise and they've got to keep those YouTube hits up, especially because Bray is currently, I believe, still, I think, one of the most watched things every week. I think it's been Braun Strowman and Omos and some Roman Reigns, Sammy stuff, understandably, because the Sammy stuff is amazing. But I think Bray's still pretty hot, so I think they want, you know, they want him to start fighting people, to start Sister Abigail-ing people, you know, sooner rather than later. So I would say realistically, we're getting something for him at Survivor Series.
All right,
Mhm.
Jody.
Yeah, I definitely think we may get something a little bit more firm at Survivor Series. The SmackDown's going to be here on Friday, and next weekend I get to go meet him again. So that's going to be tons of fun. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I kind of knew beforehand that this was going to be a long, slow burn, and I like it because it keeps me not entertained, but like it keeps you focused on something. And he knows what a big deal that was for me, you know, back in 2019 when he first came back to TV. So he's just continually, he loves the fans, and he's going to do what he does to make them happy. And I love that about him.
He's awesome that way.
Yeah, man.
Well, awesome stuff. Thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts and opinions and keeping the conversation going. I want to thank the chat for doing that as well. You guys were awesome. There were a lot of people here tonight, so thank all of you so much. And before we get out of here, please drop a like on the video if you're new to the channel. Consider hitting that subscribe button and that post notification bell so you know when we have future content. Which for this week, we will have another stream on Thursday for Impact Wrestling starting at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. So come and join us for that. Um, Again, thank all of you so much. I'll let Jody and Dom wave again because I kind of cut off the video the last time when they were waving. But thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We'll leave you with this scary image again. And just say thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time.
So what do you say? You want to see my secret?